has been brought into effect in Maharashtra, and Hindi, along with English and Marathi, made mandatory now in government schools. Hindi is mandatory for students from classes 1 to 5. And I know what you're thinking. If the Modi government repeatedly says there's no imposition of Hindi with NEP, why is Hindi mandatory in Maharashtra? I'll get to that in a bit, but first let me round up the day's updates on this story. A poster has gone viral. It's been put up by the Maharashtra Navnirman Sena, led by, in fact, Raj Thackeray. That picture there shows the poster that's been put up in Mumbai's Dadar. It says, "We are Hindu, but not Hindi." The sentiment that's now being echoed by all MNS workers as Raj Thackeray has objected to the Hindi mandatory rule, calling it clear imposition. Listen in first to what the Maharashtra Navnirman Sena had to say as they protested today in Mumbai.
आज हमने जो जीआर प्रसारित किया गया था, उस जीआर की हमने जला के उसकी होली करके हमने सरकार को ये एक आह्वान दिया है, इस चीज़ को आप वापस ले लीजिए, ताकि ये चीज़, इसका मतलब हिंदी की सख्ती हम पे की जानी नहीं चाहिए। हिंदी भाषा की जानकारी ना होने की वजह से आज तक हमारा कोई नुकसान नहीं हुआ है। कहते हैं ना, डबल इंजन ट्रिपल इंजन की सरकार इनकी चल रही है, तो जैसे ऊपर से आदेश देता है ये मान लेते हैं। मराठी का स्वाभिमान जिस पे इनके पक्ष खड़े हुए, ऐसा इनका कहना है, लेकिन आज जब मराठी को इस तरह से सेकेंडरी ट्रीटमेंट दी जा रही है, तभी आवाज नहीं उठा रहे। अगर आने वाले समय में ये सख्ती से अगर हम पे फोर्स करना चाहेंगे तो आंदोलन तीव्र होगा।
महाराष्ट्र नवनिर्माण सेनेचा पूर्णतः विरोध या गोष्टीला आहे आणि म्हणून आज त्याचा यलगार किंबहुना आज त्याचा विरोध दर्शवण्याकरता आजपासून महाराष्ट्र नवनिर्माण सेना आंदोलनाला सुरुवात करेल। आणि ती पहिली सुरुवात म्हणून हा जो जीआर आहे महाराष्ट्र नवनिर्माण कामगार सेनेतर्फे आम्ही जे आता आंदोलन केलं की सरकारने काढलेला हा जो जीआर आहे, हा जीआर आता आम्ही नुकताच जाणण्यात आलेला आहे आणि या जीआरचा संपूर्णतः महाराष्ट्र नवनिर्माण सेना निषेध करतं आणि म्हणून त्याचा निषेध म्हणून हा जीआर आपल्या समोरच मी फाडतो आणि नुकताच टाळून देखील टाकण्यात आलेला आहे आणि त्याच्यामुळे हा कामगार सेनेतर्फे जाहीर निषेध करून.
And it's not just Raj Thackeray. The Uddhav Sena, the entire Maha Aghadi has also objected to the Fadnavis government's move, calling it an attempt to spread Hindi by the BJP. And before we tell you how the Mahayuti is reacting to this entire controversy, listen in to what Aditya Thackeray and other netas of the Uddhav Sena had to say.
भाषा को विवाद ये दो स्तर पे मैं देखता हूं। पहले तो एक राजनीतिक स्तर पे देखता हूं। जिन दो लोगों की मीटिंग हुई, दोनों को जरूरत है, शायद भाजपा को भी जरूरत है कहीं ना कहीं पुनर्जन्म की, राजकीय पुनर्जन्म की। तो कोई 21 भाषा का विषय ले, मुंबई के बीएमसी में चला दे, कोई हिंदी का विषय ले, कोई मराठी का विषय बीएमसी में चलाए, कोई हिंदी का विषय बिहार में चलाए, अपनी अपनी रोटी सेके जब तक हम लड़ते रहे।
देवेंद्र फडणवीस जी है मुख्यमंत्री, वो अपनी राजनीति भाषा के आड़ में करना चाहता है। सबसे पहले वो अपने आप को समझ लेना चाहिए कि मैं महाराष्ट्र राज्य का मुख्यमंत्री हूँ और यहाँ की राजभाषा मराठी है। सबसे पहले महाराष्ट्र में मराठी जो है वो सख्त करो कि मराठी कंपलसरी करो, वो अब तक नहीं है। सिर्फ एक आदेश निकाल के सरकार का मराठी कंपलसरी नहीं हो सकती। मराठी यहाँ नंबर 1 भाषा है, राजभाषा है, हमारी मातृभाषा है। सबसे पहले मराठी को वो दर्जा मिलना चाहिए।
So here's how the government has chosen to react on this. Chief Minister Devendra Fadnavis, when asked about why this is done, has reiterated that, look, there's no need for this outrage because Marathi still remains mandatory. The native language is being prioritized, is what he's maintained. Here's a look at what all of the Mahayuti leaders had to say on this entire controversy.
मराठी आपली मातृभाषा आहेच, त्याबद्दल कुणाचं दुमत नाही। प्रत्येक राज्याला आपली आपली जी काही मातृभाषा असते त्याबद्दल आपुलकी आहे, प्रेम आहे, जिव्हाळा आहे, ती टिकली पाहिजे आणि मराठीला अभिजात भाषेचा दर्जा देशाचे पंतप्रधान नरेंद्र मोदी साहेबांनी दिला। खूप वर्ष हे प्रकरण दिल्लीमध्ये पडून होतं, परंतु कुणी करण्याचं धाडस दाखवलं नाही। ते एनडीए सरकारने दाखवलं, मोदी साहेबांनी दाखवलं आणि त्याचे कार्यक्रम पण आम्ही त्या ठिकाणी घेतले। आता मराठी भाषा भवन नवीन पिढीला महाराष्ट्रात राहायचं असेल तर त्याला मराठी आलंच पाहिजे।
So the defense that's coming from the Mahayuti is that Marathi is not being replaced in any way by Hindi, that they believe all these languages are equally important. So what was the need to impose Hindi or make it mandatory for classes 1 to 5 for students in Maharashtra, with the NEP being brought in? Because this is a controversy waiting to play out. Well, Chief Minister Fadnavis says the idea is to ensure that everyone learns a link language, as he puts it, a language that people can converse with others in outside of Maharashtra. Here's the defense of Chief Minister Fadnavis in the face of all of this controversy.
जो नई शिक्षा नीति है उसको हम पहले से लागू कर रहे हैं, ये कोई नया नोटिफिकेशन नहीं है। शिक्षा नीति में हमारा ये प्रयास है कि सबको मराठी भी आनी चाहिए और साथ साथ अपने देश की भाषा जो है वो भाषाएं भी आनी चाहिए। तो मुझे लगता है कि इस माध्यम से जो केंद्र सरकार ने विचार किया कि हमारे देश में एक संपर्क भाषा होनी चाहिए, उस दृष्टि से ये प्रयास किया गया है। बाकी महाराष्ट्र में मराठी को कंपल्सरी करना ये हमने पहले ही निर्णय लिया है। महाराष्ट्र में हर एक को मराठी सीखना ही होगा, लेकिन साथ साथ वो अंग्रेजी भी सीख पाएंगे, हिंदी भी सीख पाएंगे और कोई उनको लैंग्वेज सीखनी है तो वो भी सीख पाएंगे।
Okay, let me bring in Mustafa Sheikh joining us live from Mumbai with more details on this. Mustafa, huge controversy triggered by the government's order. Is there a possibility now of the government actually backtracking on this? There's always been, of course, English, Marathi mandatory, whether you're in a public school or a private school in Maharashtra. Now Hindi being added to that list. It's so much outrage and the focus being on Marathi pride, which is a big issue and a political issue in Maharashtra. Is there a possibility of the government actually backtracking?
Well, there's always a possibility, Akshita, as you rightly said, that there is, the Marathi pride issue and Maharashtra Navnirbhan Sena, Shiv Sena, UBT. Every opposition party is speaking on this issue. Some parties have also raised this issue that from first standard for a student to learn 3 languages and apart from that other subjects, is it not stressful? And the other option which is being looked at, whether learning of Hindi from first standard, which is compulsory now, would that be made optional? Because see, each state is making some changes while they are adopting the CBSE syllabus. For example, in history books, there is not much mention of Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj in the existing history books, which will be done in Maharashtra, and those additions and value additions will be made as the syllabus is adopted in Maharashtra. So each state is doing something or the other to make this entire syllabus more relevant to the native and local history. But the language issue persists, wherein Shiv Sena UBT has been very careful. They are saying that they are not against Hindi, but Marathi should be compulsory, and it should be basically addressed whether a student can learn this language at the stage when they are in the first standard. So there are different concerns being raised. Devendra Fadnavis, the Chief Minister, was firm as of now, saying that this new policy has been implemented and it will be implemented, but rising pressure from political parties and people in Maharashtra may let the government decide whether there is some scope of changing it or making it optional till 4th or 5th standard. Back to you.
All right. Thanks very much, Mustafa, for breaking down those details of really how the Fadnavis government is countering this entire narrative that they imposed Hindi on the people of Maharashtra. But why? Why has this happened? Why is Hindi mandatory in Maharashtra now? Is it because that's what the NEP does, as the DMK is repeatedly alleged in Tamil Nadu, that the national education policy imposes Hindi on a state? Is that what's happened in Maharashtra? Let me explain it for you. How was the language policy first changed to Maharashtra with the NEP? Earlier, it was a 2-language rule in Maharashtra. You had English and Marathi. Marathi was mandatory, by the way, in both public and private schools. Now, it's a 3-language rule, which means essentially English, Marathi and Hindi are mandatory. So now this is the primary difference. Hindi is mandatory when clearly the NEP 2020 states otherwise. So here's what I mean. What exactly is the 3-language rule? As per the national education policy, it's English plus 2 regional languages. 2 languages that are native to India. So when we talk about the 3-language policy, there's English and, like I said, 2 regional languages, out of which one must be the language that's spoken in the state. So for example, in Maharashtra, it's Marathi. In Tamil Nadu, it's Tamil. The 3rd language must be another regional language from India. So it can't be a foreign language, it has to be a regional language. That's all the NEP says. It doesn't say at any point that it's Hindi alone that must be one of those 3 languages. And yet you're seeing it happen in Maharashtra. Why is that? If NEP doesn't make it mandatory, Why has it happened in Maharashtra? Because the government has chosen to make it compulsory. It's a state subject, education. And so the Fadnavis government, while adopting the NEP and the three-language rule, have said English, Marathi, both compulsory, and the third language will be Hindi. So there's no option being given to students, as the NEP says, which is that the third regional language is an optional one. They can pick out of a list of them. Instead, the Fadnavis government has clearly said that there's no choice of a third language in Maharashtra. The reason that the Chief Minister has given is, he says that we're trying to ensure that a link language is also taught, and so people have more opportunities in other parts of the country as well. Now, what exactly is the impact of the national education policy? And I want to break this down city-wise. Whether you have an EP in your city or not, what exactly does it look like then? So let's begin with Mumbai, since we've been talking about this entire controversy. Without the national education policy, it was a two-language policy. Marathi compulsory, English compulsory. Now with NEP, it's become Marathi plus English plus Hindi compulsory. So it's become from a two-language policy to a three-language policy in private CBSE schools. And I focused on CBSE because if we go into really the whole range of private schools, the list goes on. But in CBSE schools, Marathi is compulsory because, like I said, both public and private, the language is compulsory, native language, English. And then the third language can be an optional foreign language, German, French or Spanish. In Delhi, in the national capital, right now the NEP has been brought in. But let's take a look at what it was like in public schools again without NEP, two-language policy, Hindi and English. But in a city like Delhi, which has such a confluence of people from across the country, what is it like with NEP? Hindi, native language, regional language, whichever way you want to look at it in Delhi, English, and the third regional language from India, language native to India, is the choice between Urdu, Punjabi and Sanskrit for students. They can pick out of these three. There's also the question, of course, that based on the resource available in the school, you can choose which is possible. Private schools, CBSE in Delhi, it's English plus one of the regional languages. So they give you an option of Hindi, Sanskrit, Urdu or Punjabi. And then the third language is a foreign language, German, French or Spanish. So a lot of variety there in private schools in Delhi. But that's again because the national capital, Delhi, has a range of people with no real native regional language per se. Let's take you to another metro city, the city of Kolkata. Here, public schools without NEP itself, there was a three-language policy in place. The state education policy also mandates a three-language policy. English, one regional language, which can be Bengali or Hindi. Now, the third language you can choose, but if you choose Bengali as your second language, then Hindi comes up as an option for your third language. Now, with NEP, how does this change? Doesn't really change, except for the fact that the third language must be a regional language. Previously, it could be any language, including a foreign language. With NEP, it becomes the third language also as a regional language. And then, of course, Bengali becomes mandatory there. It's not Bengali/Hindi. In private CBSE schools in Kolkata, it's English plus one of the two regional languages, either Bengali or Hindi, plus one of the foreign languages. Let's take you to Bengaluru now. In the city where again you've been seeing quite a bit of a debate over language. Here too, Kannada is mandatory. Public or private schools, it's mandatory across. Without national education policy, it's essentially a three-language rule as it is. State education policy in effect currently in Karnataka, English mandatory, Kannada mandatory. And the third language, not necessarily a regional language. It can be either regional or a foreign language based on the resource available in that particular school. So inevitably, it turns out to be a regional language. With NEP, it will become English plus Kannada plus any third regional language, Tamil, Malayalam, Telugu or Hindi even. Now, in private CBSE schools in Bengaluru and across Karnataka, Kannada again is mandatory as mandated by the government. Now, besides that, the third option is a foreign language. Chennai, big bone of contention, the national education policy, the three-language policy. So as you may have already realized, in Chennai and across Tamil Nadu in public schools without NEP, it's a two-language formula, English plus Tamil, no third language that's taught, no option given to students. With NEP, that changes. English is mandatory, so is Tamil. Now, the question that often comes up here is whether the third regional language in Tamil Nadu will be Hindi. Not at all. NEP clearly says English mandatory, Tamil mandatory, any third regional language. So again, it can be Malayalam, it can be Telugu, it can be Kannada, anything. Private CBSE schools, English, Tamil is mandatory in Tamil Nadu too, and then you have foreign languages as well. All right, let's move on to other stories also, as we've broken down for you the full language fight that's playing out right now in Maharashtra. There's another big debate in the country right now, triggered by Vice President Jagdeep Dhankhar's comments and his very strong critique of the Indian judiciary. He's lashed out and questioned the Supreme Court essentially for setting deadlines for the president to clear bills and for invoking Article 142 to pass 10 bills cleared by the Tamil Nadu Assembly without executive assent. Vice President Dhankhar has questioned this, saying no one should be about the executive. It's triggered a big debate. Here are those reactions.
It is our obligation.
Vice President Jagdeep Dhankhar takes on the Supreme Court. Speaking at the valedictory function of the 6th Rajya Sabha internship program on Thursday, Dhankhar hit out at the apex court, accusing the judiciary of overstepping constitutional boundaries.
The government is accountable. There is a directive to the president by a recent judgment. Where are we heading? What is happening in the country? I never thought in my life I'll have the occasion to see it. I have no doubt.
Dhankhar was referring to a recent order by a 2-judge Supreme Court bench that set time frames for governors and the president to decide on bills passed by state assemblies. The verdict came on a petition filed by the MK Stalin government against Tamil Nadu Governor R.N. Ravi, who kept decisions on 10 bills pending for months. Dhankhar slammed the court for using powers under Article 142 to deliver the judgment.
Very contentious issues. Article 142. Article 142 has become a nuclear missile against democratic forces. Available to judiciary 24/7. My worries were at a very highest level. I never thought in my life I'll have the occasion to see it.
Under Article 142, the Supreme Court can pass orders beyond existing laws to ensure complete justice. Such orders are enforceable nationwide. The SC can also summon individuals, demand documents, and punish for contempt. The Vice President also questioned delays in the Justice Yashwant Verma burnt cash case.
Was put in the dock. It is now over a month. Even if it is can of worms, even if there are skeletons in the cupboard, time to blow up the can, time for its lid to go out, and time for the cupboard to collapse. Let the worms and skeletons be in public domain so that cleansing takes place.
Senior lawyers criticized the Vice President's remarks.
What the Vice President has ignored is provisions of the Constitution which are interpreted. The timelines are governed by distinct provisions in the Constitution. It's in that particular case 200, 201. 200 goes to the governor, and 201 goes to the president. This was the interpretation of those provisions, and whatever I could read and whatever the Vice President has said, I don't see any comment on this reasoning of the Supreme Court on those aspects.
एक ऐसा वक्तव्य देना कि अब आर्टिकल 142 is nuclear missile. What was a nuclear missile was notebandi, not 142.
Apart from lawyers, many opposition leaders hit out at the Vice President Dhankhar.
उपराष्ट्रपति जी, सुप्रीम कोर्ट हो या पार्लियामेंट हो, ये संविधान के मुताबिक चलेगी, और अगर गैर संवैधानिक बिल संख्या के आधार पर आप जबरदस्ती पास करेंगे दोनों सदनों में, तो उसकी समीक्षा करने का अधिकार हमारे देश का कानून और संविधान सुप्रीम कोर्ट को देता है।
अनुच्छेद 142 और 45 का है, बहुत ही ज्यादा स्पष्ट रूप से लिखा भी है, कई बार पढ़ा भी गया है और कई बार परिभाषित हुआ है, वो अनचैलेंज है। उसके अपने अधिकार हैं, जो कुछ उसमें लिखा हुआ है, और जब तक उसका एक शब्द भी अमेंड न हो, वो भारत के संविधान का कानून है। एक ऐसा शब्द, वाक्य और अनुच्छेद है जिसके अनुसार देश को चलना चाहिए।
Over the last 10 years, the executive and the judiciary have faced off on many issues, including appointment of judges. The latest war of words comes even as the apex court takes up many political sensitive cases like the challenge to the Waqf Amendment Act. With Srishti Ojha, Bureau Report, India Today.